Chris, welcome. It's so good to be here. I've really been looking forward to this conversation.
Pumped to be here. Excited to get into it.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
So I have a ton of questions about the ENCODED process, and I figured maybe the best way to get into it would be to share with you a little bit about how we got into ENCODED and how the process has been for us so far.
Can't wait.
Okay,
Let's
sounds
do it.
good. So I've been listening to your podcast and your work on LinkedIn for a really long time, and we started listening to some of your ENCODED podcasts, and I felt very called out because you were talking about identity and beliefs operating at a subconscious level that then impacts and drives all of our thinking, our decision making, our behavior, and ultimately the outcomes that we're getting in life. And it's all going back to that seed of the identity and the behavior that's encoded in our subconscious, beliefs that are encoded in our subconscious. And then you were like, people try to solve this with therapy and meditation and self-help books. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I've been doing all the years I've been alive. And I can't say it hasn't been helpful, but you're right that it's only been sort of marginal. That kind of the core yuckiness, I'll call it, of the seed core yuckiness that I feel when I wake up in the morning hasn't really been solved with self-help and meditation and therapy. And
it reaches a ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. A big ceiling. So we were like, let's sign up for this program. What do we got to lose? And so we sign up, and then basically it's a platform that walks us through. You say it could be like 45 minutes to 90 minutes. It took me a while to go through all of the questions because they're very thorough, and they basically ask you to rate your life on a scale of 1 to 10 in all of the different domains of your life, like how you feel about time and your relationships and your health and your finances and all of that. And then it asks you why you rated yourself. And that took a long time for me to say, okay, this is a 6 and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
And then it
gets faster as you do it.
Okay, because I do have questions.
So yeah, it's designed to be in cycles. So I've done it probably 30 times in my entire life so far. So as you keep going, it certainly gets more streamlined. But right now, yeah, it probably takes me 2 to 3 hours of deep work.
Okay.
Some people, the first time, it'll take them through, a couple days of intermittent attempts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it was for us. It's like starting and stop. It took us maybe 3 or 4 days because it was like, I have to go and sit and think about this and process this.
Totally.
And actually, your new frequency map just unlocked.
Yep.
But you haven't done it yet.
I haven't done it. Literally unlocked like 2 days ago. So I was like, I was going to squeeze it in before this pod, but no, not yet. So it will be this week. Looking forward to that now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same questions every time? Okay.
It is for right now.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, cool.
That's good to know so that then I can start to look at my life through this lens and carry this lens with me through the different cycles of it.
The second map is and I'll let you continue for the process as well. But the second map is a big eye opener for many people because when you go through it a second time, you're like, whoa, like I already see. I have a different perception of all these areas of my life already after 60 days of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And the vision for my life is much more expanded. The possibilities that I see have already grown. And then as you continue to cycle through it, it continues to work that way. So I'm excited for you to go through the second one because it is a big aha moment of maybe on a day by day basis, you don't feel this I know people feel big results, but maybe it doesn't feel, and then this process happens and it's like, whoa. So
beautiful. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful because I am looking forward to it more than I was looking forward to the first one. Because the first one was kind of like, oh, this is gonna be 90 minutes of some sort of work. Like I don't know what this is, and so I kind of like maybe I rushed through it a little bit. I would say from the first one, and now I'm kind of like, oh my god, this is so important to not rush through this. So I want to really like hunker down and spend time and really think about it and really understand of where I'm coming from, why these beliefs that I want are even there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting through that process second time and get maybe a more concrete map to follow.
yeah, and then think about it um, like a professional fitness routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning, like you're going to feel the benefits just by starting. So it doesn't need to be perfect. And then as you go, you dial in the process, the reps, the precision. You
Mm-hmm.
start to make it more of your own. So when you think about it less in like, oh, I need to be perfect about this in 90 days, and more about, oh, this is something that's going to benefit my entire life, and you expand the horizon of how you're going to be using it, then there's not as much pressure and like, oh, I need to get this right today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is my experience is going through it. I definitely have seen like maybe after a week or two, I would ask myself like, well, what has really improved here, right? And I'm like, first thing that came in, I was like, oh, I'm sitting here with the pen in my hand, right? Like just that is like, oh wait, this is super consistent. Like now I'm like I've never actually had in my life consistent, let's say 90 days of writing every day. Like I've never had
Yeah.
that until this program. So and I've tried. Like it's not like I've been like, oh whatever, journaling is for some weaklings or something. No, I was like, a lot of people talking about this. Let me try. And I try and I do it for 10 days or 20 days or something like that. And then I usually lose the interest because I'm like, what's the benefit of this? Like I don't see the benefit from just writing 2 pages every day, but with this how you structure those journals is really like I can see what the benefit of that is and then see the progress every let's say not every day, but every 3 days I'll be like, oh yeah, I start to look at this and I was thinking about it differently than I usually think about it or something
Mm.
like that, right? So I don't see these big moves, but I definitely little baby steps are definitely there. So super super excited, and so and again, thanks for creating this because it is like I'm hooked. So, great.
Yeah, it's been a true joy to create and share. It's made such a profound impact on my life that I'm like, oh, I have to do this, right? I
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
once I realized, because I've been doing it since 2021. So in 2024, when I looked back and I was like, whoa, like I never feel anxiety anymore. I never
Hmm.
feel frustration.
Hmm.
I feel about all these areas of my life, I've never felt better. Like, why is it the way that it is? Right. And then it's like, it's my fitness routine helped, but that's not why it's like this. Right. My business success helped, but those are all expressions of my frequency. Right. And so
Hmm.
when I looked at the root, it was like, this is why. Right. And
Hmm.
so that when I knew that, I decided to sell my previous business and start working on this. And it's just been so energizing and fun, honestly, to
Hmm.
continue to create it
Hmm.
and explore it and share it. Um, and then when you think about because you mentioned these like baby steps, right? If you compare it to fitness, like progress in fitness is also
Hmm.
baby steps. But then when you look back in 6 months, you look in the mirror, you're like, whoa, like this has made a big difference. And the cool thing about this is because of the way that it's restructuring neural pathways, that it compounds, right? So at the beginning, I was just like, I want to be a LinkedIn creator, right? And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, that is ingrained. Like those habits, that identity, the beliefs that support it are ingrained. Then I can be a
Hmm.
entrepreneur that leads a team. Then I can be a visionary entrepreneur that creates new things, that does those. Then I can be an
Hmm.
author, right? Then I can be a top 1% athlete. And then all of a sudden, after a couple of years of doing it, you're like, whoa, my potential's infinite. I can be all of these things through having a structured process. And at the beginning, to me, it sort of felt like I was wandering around in the woods with no path, right? I'm just like looking, and I think a lot of people that are in a personal development journey, it feels like that. And I think the coolest thing is bringing the system together makes it practical and structured. So now it's like you're on the highway instead of like walking around in the woods with no path. It's really cool.
So awesome. Yeah. I mean, just comparing it to like the self-help books, like I feel like it's like a little lantern in that forest where you lost, right? And then you get there and then you're just like, oh, this is just like a little lantern here. Like it's not really showing me that this is the path forward. And so I definitely feel like this is more like I'm going somewhere with this, right? Like, oh, so it's like continuously unveiling versus this like epiphany from reading a book. And it's like, oh, wow, that works this way. And 2 days later, like, well, I don't know how to use it or how, all of those things. So that
Precisely.
consistency, I feel like it's really, really helpful. Yeah. Big fan.
Cool. Brandon, back to the process.
Yeah, back to that. Well, it's interesting because we talked about the journals already, so we're kind of like going ahead, but that's totally fine. But so I put in the I do the work, the 90 minutes of putting in all of my stuff, and then it shows me back what my frequency, I guess, is. And at that point, I sat on the couch and I just wept for a while because I felt so seen at such a deep level, at a level that I'm almost trying to hide or conceal out in my public realm, or even to like somebody like Oli or my therapist or people who I'm even trying to be real in front of. We're not getting that layer of core realness that I was seeing back, like reflected back at me, of that this is who you are today. And that was a really sobering moment to see that, honestly. And then it moved, I think it was the same day though. It was like, don't worry, you can improve from here. And it showed me then the map, I think, is what we're calling it. When I say I think, it's because I'm still learning your terminology for all of this.
All good.
So it shows me the map, which then gives me 5 new identity statements, 5 new beliefs about the world, and 5 new encoded certainties about the future. And my job at the same point, pretty much in how it all unveiled, was that these journals shipped to our house. And so at the same point, it was like, okay, you're going to sit down every day and you're going to by hand write out these same exact 5 identity statements, beliefs, encoded certainties about the future. And you're going to do this every day from now on. And this is your job as a person. Until we tell you to come back to the app and do this process again. And that at which point it sounds like, based on what you were just saying a couple minutes ago, that these statements evolve over time as things shift and as I change.
Indeed.
Okay.
So it's like you do the map, right?
Yes.
We'll make the fitness comparison, right? It's like I go in and get my body weight, my body fat percentage, and then they give me a plan, nutrition plan, exercise plan. When you do exercise, it's actually very repetitive and very boring, right? Like I do the same squats, or running is just putting one foot in front of the other, right? It's not complicated, but you use that repetition, and then 60 days later you come back. And then you're like, whoa, I've gotten stronger. I've lost 5 pounds. My body fat's here. Like I'm starting to get closer to my goals. Now I have a bigger goal. Instead of running a 5K, I want to run a half marathon, right? And you add weight to the plan, more intensity or more weight in the plan, which allows you to get stronger. frequency training works the same way, that as you build stronger, more empowering beliefs, then you're at the point where you can add more empowering beliefs about yourself, more empowering beliefs about the world. And so that process compounds over time.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit different from Ollie in that I'm a compulsive journaler. So I've been journaling since I was in high school. And what I love about these encoded journals is that also there's this stream of consciousness element to it too. So it's not just like write out, do your reps at the gym, but also like get out whatever you need to get out onto these pages before you do your reps. And that I think has been really helpful for me because I've been able to reflect on the process in that stream of consciousness in those pages. I've been able to reflect on, I find myself some mornings just taking one of the identity statements, let's say, or one of the beliefs and just kind of evaluating it, I guess, or trying it on for size. Because what I think was also tricky for me at the beginning was getting these 15 new statements, which at this point I've memorized.
Yep.
But at the beginning, it was like, okay, these 15 new statements. But my life is today a totally different life than what these statements are painting. And so it was even difficult for me to imagine what that life would actually look like, feel like. It just seemed like there's such a big difference. And now through the writing of it, it feels more like there's still a difference between them, absolutely. But it's almost like I can feel a connection point is being made in between them, if that makes sense.
It shortens the gap between them for sure. And through that, it shifts your emotional baseline and then the actions that are necessary to achieve those results and then become easier. And I'm sure that you've already noticed that as you've gotten into it. So it's not like we write this down, snap our fingers, and then we make $1 trillion, right? That's not what we're going for here. And there's obviously no grounding that is possible. So this is the most scientifically precise way to approach this that I have been able to develop so far.
And that I do find that to be true, that I am taking the actions that I would need to take to turn those encoded certainties into more of a reality, and that those actions are easier to take than 2 months ago when I wasn't doing this process.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing them more often. Definitely. Like there's one thing this is really helping me with, which is like a really big creative project that I'm trying to gain momentum on and move forward with, that has kind of it felt stuck before this. And so I can kind of measure it based on that. And I know that I've made so much progress on that specific creative project just through the process of journaling every day and writing these statements out every day.
Yeah, that's good. Do you want to continue with the process, or do we want to dive into any of the?
There was one more thing, but it's escaping me at the moment.
Why don't you distinguish for real 1 second while you collect that?
Yeah.
Because you've been doing journaling for a while, but then you've taken on this, and I think a lot of people might confuse what we're doing here with like a common journaling routine, which is obviously very different, especially with the AI element and the personalization.
Yeah.
So could you just reflect on how you've seen that difference being a longtime journaler and then adopting this process?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a totally different experience, because I think as a longtime journaler, there was always a question in my mind as to how is same that you ran into, Ollie, which is like, is this helping? And if for me, it just was like a compulsive thing. Like I needed to write. So it felt good in the moment. But in the long term, it was like, I don't know if this is really helping. Uh, and so I think it lacked directionality in a way that
Mhm.
this is feels very precise. It feels like we are moving in this direction. And all my other journals was like, this is an open book. Talk about whatever you want. And this
Yeah.
is like, no, you have 2 pages to talk about whatever you want. And then you have 3 pages where you need to do this very specific stuff. And then you can go on with your day.
Mhm. Right on.
Yeah, for me, the journaling part is, yeah, I definitely found myself several days, I would say, out of the 90 days, it's been like I sit there and I'm like, that's not worth writing about. Right? Like I would have these internal conversations. It's like, like, yeah, whatever. I don't want to work. I don't want to write about work, let's say, right? Or I don't want to write about this. Like I'm kind of choosing. And then I get to a point I was like, dude, this doesn't matter. Just get out whatever is there. And if nothing is there, I'm literally start writing. I have nothing in my head right now. And I just start writing anything just to kind of get that going. And then somehow 4 sentences later, totally shifts into some other thoughts, ideas, and um, to your earlier point, like I definitely feel less anxiety and less kind of the cognitive load, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, there's some space in there for these new unexpected things that came out of nowhere, right? Versus before, I feel like I was running it like this much to the top, so anything tries to enter it, it's just like, oh, come on, another freaking thing, right? Like you're right. So now there's maybe 30% at the top. So it's like anything comes in, it's not hitting that
You got
ceiling.
some room.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely noticed that. I would say that it's hard for me to say if I'm calmer or easier to be around because of this, but it feels to me that I'm easy to be around to myself, maybe, So,
Yeah, what
uh,
would be the main differences that you would both individually, reflect on for yourself so far, right? And then also maybe report how long you've been doing it. It sounds like 45, 60 days. So the major differences individually, and then it'd be interesting, anything related to, like the relationship of both of you together. Doing it because
Mhm.
my girlfriend and I do it together, and it's been amazing for our relationship over
Yeah.
the period that we've been doing it, which is probably about 18 months. So I'd be
Mhm.
interested in how you all reflect on that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we also have couples therapists that we do once a month. We used to do it once a week, but then we kind of scaled back. And so I noticed that there, and I noticed it with this, that I'm personally more maybe a better listener because of this. I would say that I definitely noticed that. Like I wrote, like, hey, what are the positives? And it's like, you know, yeah, like I noticed to slow down. To I was kind of having fun with it. It's like, hey, am I thinking now and acting and connecting with the outside world in the speed of how the pen writes? Because I'm like training myself to slow down with the pen. It's like I can't go faster, right? Like it's like, okay, it's just slow down. And so I feel like things are matching to that speed of pen writing. This is just the analogy to it. Who knows? But
Mhm.
just I'm just saying, kind of like slowing down
Less
overall. So
urgency.
yeah, yeah. Um, I used to have these, like, someone says something, and I get idea about it, and I want to share that idea right away. Right. So now I feel more about, like, yeah, I have it, but I don't need to interrupt or jump in there right away. I can just leave it, and I have more confidence to say, "Hey, I will remember this in 25 seconds
Mhm.
or a minute or something." So I would say those are kind of the things that were popping out for me in the past, 45 days or so.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I man. I think it's helped with everything, so it's hard for me to pull out very specific things. It ultimately, for me, it kind of boils down to how do I feel when I wake up in the morning inside my own skin? And so that initial feeling when I wake up and I realize I am myself, I'm going to be in this day today and be who I am in this day, that feeling has shifted into something much sweeter and more positive and something I'm looking forward to so that each day feels a lot longer in a sense because I'm more here for it, more present for it. And I'm no longer trying to run away from different parts of the day. Whereas I think I was trying to do that before. Like I wouldn't want to be part of this meeting or something. And I would try to rush through it or I would freak out about it for a long time ahead of time. And so now I feel like even recording this podcast is a good example of like something that I might ordinarily feel very nervous leading up to. And there are some nerves present, but they feel a lot more manageable and calmer and just like, hey, buddy, it's fine that you're here. Like I'm not fighting against myself, I guess, the way that I was fighting against myself, 2 months ago.
Super powerful, and it keeps going.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm writing, one of the 15 things to write, I write the sentence of like, we choose each other every day.
Yeah.
And every time I'm writing that, I have this like, oh yeah, this is a new day. I got to appreciate this person. This is, we are making a conscious choice every single day to want to be together, for example, like in the relationship, right? So, and then it kind of starts me on this like, oh, hey, let's be nice to each other. Let's, let's solve things in a calm way and, so on and so forth. So there's little improvements all over the place. Yeah. From this.
Yeah. The point on time is super interesting. Because I hear it from a lot of people. It's like, oh, it feels like time is speeding up, right? And most people will attribute it to technology, saying because of technology, it feels like I have less time in the day, that I'm falling behind and things like that. But it's actually their frequency. And that it just so happens that people that are at a low frequency use technology in a specific way that drives them to reinforce the subconscious programs that make them feel like they're falling behind. So it feels like time is less. So it's a correlation with technology use, but the real root of it is your frequency.
Totally.
And so when you, as you continue to elevate your frequency, this effect compounds where it starts to feel like what you used to do in a day. Now it's the same day you can do what you would do in a week. And then at some moments it can be like for my book, for instance, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Certain moments would hit me where I could do more in a day than I would have done in a month. Just from like such a deep level of presence and creativity. And so it seems unfathomable, right? 5 years ago, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? It seems unfathomable to many people because the approach that we're using targets a layer of human development that a majority, 99% of humans have never explored. And when you explore it, it creates a level of capacity, potential, and capability that most people would view as impossible. And so I think that is amazing, and I'm pumped. The science around it is evolving. I'm pumped to study it. Um, and yeah, it's been really cool.
Mm. I
Yeah.
totally know what you mean about the frequency and the time thing, because the thing that made me weep on my sofa was how called out I felt around the the belief of lack around resources, around time, and how much I had organized my life subconsciously in a way that's like me doing more is how I like find value in myself. And if I'm not doing that, then something is wrong. And which makes like taking a nap in the afternoon feel not restful, even though I would
Irresponsible. Yeah.
exactly, I would still
Yeah.
do it, but I just would feel like
Don't
crap
enjoy it.
about it. Yeah. And then I punish myself or whatever for it later on. And so the whole thing about time called me out a lot, and that was what made me cry on the sofa, was seeing that. But I did remember what the thing I want to talk about, which was kind of a little bit off topic, but not really. It's it's something I think about a lot when I'm going through this, which is like or I wonder about a lot, is how did you come across this? And how did you like codify this into the system that it is?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever talked about this, so it'll
I
be
think about this every
fun to go
day when
in.
I'm writing in my journal. I'm like, how did he do this?
And if you have deeper follow-up questions, feel free to continue to pull it out of me. So
Yeah.
in 2021, I was running my business. Maybe we had, I don't know, 15 people working at my company. Um, and what happens as you take take on more demand in your life, right? Children, responsibilities, clients, team members, salaries, financial commitments. It's basically more demand, right? And that demand puts pressure on, at the fundamental level, your nervous system.
Mhm.
Um, and so if your nervous system isn't trained or strengthened, then that demand often exceeds your level of capacity, and you get anxiety, uh, imposter syndrome, unable to think clearly, procrastination, nervous before you make a speech, second guess your decisions, need answers, go and look for other people for answers. The symptoms of this are widespread and almost universally misidentified. So most people view it as a personality problem, like I'm just not disciplined enough, or
Mhm.
a knowledge gap, like I just need to go read another book and I'll figure it out, or just simply this is the way it is. I just get anxiety sometimes because my business is stressful and this is just the way it is, so I'll accept it and try to manage it. So at some point, this stuff started to really get in my way, and so I began to seek out solutions. Um, and I started with like the most basic, probably the journaling routine that everybody does, which is like write for a half a page, write 3 things you're grateful for, write 3 of your goals down, and then you basically make a to-do list, right? So
No.
I started with that, and then I noticed that basically about every 90 days that I would be extremely burned out. And
Mhm.
so my co-founder Megan would, like, every 90 days she would basically force me to go on a vacation. And at that point I was single, so I would just take a vacation by myself. And I found myself on the vacation for 5 days basically spending a majority of the time writing.
Mhm.
And so I would have first start with reflecting on where am I right now? How do I feel about like where I am and what's going on? then I would write out an ideal vision for my life without like a time domain. So, right, it could be 6 months, 12 months. I ignored the time, but it's like, where do I want to be from here?
Mhm.
And then I would start to write down, okay, so what would I believe about myself and the world in order to get there? And then I would start to make a plan. And then I would come back from the vacation and I would start writing down in the morning. I am a content creator that shares my truth and wisdom to inspire others, right? I am an international speaker who does X, Y, and Z. I'm a visionary entrepreneur who delegates effectively and leads my team. Um, Things like delegation expands my impact. When I let go and let others lead, like my business thrives and accelerates. And I would start to write these things down. And then I would go back because I would get burnt out again 90 days later and go back and realize, whoa, like the things that I wrote down are now all the things that are happening. Like I wrote down that and now I am getting booked for international speeches. Now I wrote down I'm a visionary entrepreneur and now here I am having visions for the future, right? I wrote down delegation expands my impact and all of a sudden my company's starting to operate without me. Right,
Mhm.
we're on the verge of me basically not being needed except for visionary work and market communication. And so I ran through that cycle for about 3 years,
Mm.
um, and continued to iterate on it and try to find little details in it. And then in 2024, after now I had totally delegated responsibility of my business. My 8-figure business did run without me. I participated in one board meeting 2 hours a quarter and my business ran without me, operated it amazing. It did good. My second business that I started was now had a full leadership team installed and was operating without me.
Mm.
And and so I look back and then I was like, I haven't felt anxiety in 6 months. Right. I used to feel guilty if I wasn't working 60 hours a week. Now I never feel guilty. I used to get frustrated if somebody said something mean to me. Now I don't care. Like um something is going on here. And then I started to feel so I used to be super anxious, like not super anxious. I would have anxiety a couple times a week and it would disrupt my ability to lead my company and my life. Now I
Mhm.
feel no anxiety. I used to think I wasn't creative. I'm not a creative person. All of a sudden now I view myself as one of the most creative people ever. Like I used to think that I like what couldn't be a thought leader. Now like I literally am like the number one thought leader in B2B marketing, right? I used to think that that visionary people were special and like that's just not me. And now all of a sudden I'm having visions of the future like every 6 months, like
Mhm.
big stuff.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, and my health is at an all. I'm a top 1% health in every single biomarker category, and I'm like, there's something going on here that needs to be understood more. And
Mhm.
so then I started showing other people starting in 2025, mostly entrepreneurs. And because they weren't walking through the woods, like wandering around like me, that I provided a process that they would come back to me after a month and say, my life has changed.
Mhm.
My wife says that she feels like I'm showing up as a totally different person. My relationship with my 7-year-old daughter is way better and different than it was just a month ago. I used to have to work 80 hours a week. Now my team's running it. Now I'm only working 45 hours a week. I'm making more money. My team's more empowered. I'm happier. I'm feeling more creative. So these people are providing insane like reviews and impacts of this process that I'm showing them manually. And then so after like about 50 people tried it, then people start being like, dude, I know this works, but what the fuck is going on? Like how do you explain how this actually works. So I
Mhm.
started to do some digging, and that process started in September of last year. And I think the culmination of that process was about a month ago. So probably 6 months of me really trying to understand what is going on here at a physiological and scientific level.
Mhm.
And one of the things that for all my different businesses, when I look back of why I've been able to build really successful and new and different businesses that paved the way is because I challenge assumptions that experts in the field take for granted, or because they are so specialized in a particular domain that I connect dots from 4 or 5 domains in a way that people haven't considered before. And so when you look at it, there's taking stuff from neuroscience, from cognitive science, from psychology, from nervous system research, from human performance research. There's all of these different areas, and when you connect them together, there's dots that I don't think that anyone's made before.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we started to connect them together, then it's like, oh, like duh. When you are clear on who you are, what you do, and why you do it, you make faster decisions. You feel more calm, confident, less imposter syndrome, mental noise, and you have more presence. And when you do those things, your nervous system is more regulated. You have more capacity in your nervous system, so you don't get stressed as much. You have the ability to have deeper relationships. You don't need to interrupt someone when you're talking because you have that level of stability inside of yourself. And that is actually what permeates into your emotions, your behavior patterns, and your results. And so historically, people have sort of viewed that my behavior is the cause, right? And my results are the effect. And now I view it as your frequency is the cause and your emotions, behaviors, and results are the effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a total shift that just creates a ton of empowerment. So, and then our roadmap is just incredible in terms of what we're like, where we're taking it from here in terms of the level of personalization, the guided path for someone that's in tier 1 versus tier 3. So the initial structure of the system is there, but over time, I do see it as the equivalent to going to college or having a fitness routine. That everyone will do it as a foundational component of their own well-being, performance, and economic contribution and success.
Sounds amazing. Sounds great.
So that was the basically the process from beginning to end. And the interesting thing is that number one, that I was basically just on a path to try to solve my own I don't like calling it a problem, but solve my own problem, for lack of a better way to say it. And that I knew that it worked before I knew why, right? So that's a really interesting thing. It's like, holy shit, like this literally feels like what most people would view as impossible, right? I would say a majority of people think that the common solution is I just need to manage my anxiety, not that I can eliminate it from my experience completely. So like this feels impossible. And then once I felt it, then I reverse engineered why.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing too.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's great, because that makes me think of how I had a little epiphany during this process, that I was also focusing on my thoughts, right? And so like, hey, you're having all these thoughts about, you're thinking about this thing certain way. And then I go like, well, I don't want to think about it that way. So I need to focus on not having certain thoughts. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. Right. So it's like, they're just pop. Right. So I'm like, and then I saw like, oh, there is a layer before then that produces all these thoughts, which is beliefs. And then where do beliefs come from? Well, that's the identity of who I want to be. And so like having that connected to, you like kind of uncovered 2 additional layers above where I was looking into. And no wonder that I'm lost in it, right? Because I'm not seeing the entire structure of the system. So now I'm like, okay, there's identity. What do I want? Well, if I want that, I need to really believe in what I want. And then thoughts are just outcome of that. Like I don't have to focus on thoughts at all. They just are produced by those beliefs that I specifically chose to shift.
Indeed, yeah, and a tad bit of specificity on beliefs for the listeners, because up until recently, even I didn't fully and I use thoughts and beliefs interchangeably sometimes, and then even when I would use the term beliefs, I wasn't like like totally sure. And so I hope this is helpful, that a, a, a belief is an automatic neural pathway wired in your brain. You don't choose it. You don't think about it. Like, just trying to say an affirmation in the mirror is not going to change it, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the interesting thing, I call it a subconscious program now for clarity. It's like the firmware that's running in your brain, right? It's solidified. And so when a belief truly changes, it's automatically how you see the world. It is it becomes the more dominant way that the electricity flows in your brain within milliseconds when everything happens. And so I think that level of specificity is huge, because then you see, like, it's not that you're getting rid of an old belief. You're just you're creating a more dominant neural pathway that overtakes the old one. And then when you see that, you're like, oh, well, I can just do this over and over and over again. I can continue to make new dominant neural pathways that show up automatically. That's why you get this compounding effect on it, because once it's established, the only way that you can go backwards is to reestablish the other one as the more dominant pathway,
Right.
which takes a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
And why would you do that?
Why would you do that when
exactly?
Yeah.
So when someone is in a position, right? Let's say they're 45 days in, and they start to they felt some momentum for a while, but now they reach a challenge, right? Something unexpected happens, like whatever, what they would call a setback, right?
Yeah.
When there's more demand coming on you, you default to the most available automatic neural pathway. And so what happens when you face what people would consider a setback is that it exposes who you really are, the actual neural pathways running in your head, right? Yeah. And so to not see that type of setback as a bad thing, but to see it as an opportunity to elevate and demonstrate a new neural pathway every time. And so I think that it's a required part of the process to be able to show up to setbacks and challenges in an elevated way automatically. That is what demonstrates that you have truly established a more dominant neural pathway about how you show up. So I think that's a really cool insight for others as well.
And so I've been trying to understand this too, is like, because I know what you say about saying an affirmation in the mirror is not the same thing. And I have totally experienced that to be true. But what is it that makes it different than us writing down a belief every day? Is it just the act of writing it every day? Or, because isn't it kind of similar, like saying an affirmation in the mirror versus like what we're writing down? Do you kind of see where my confusion here is?
Indeed, yeah. So share your experience trying it. What happened?
Well, I mean, saying it in the mirror, I just don't believe myself. So I just feel silly. I'm not that type of person who could just say it and just be like, okay, great, my day is better. I'm calling myself out on the BS of it, I suppose. Versus, okay, if I take that same statement and now I'm writing it every day, now it's more, it's less performative. I don't know why saying it in the mirror feels like a performance, but writing doesn't. Writing feels like it's more reflective, and I have to now go do something with it. I have to like go prove myself right that what I just wrote down is what is the truth.
In your affirmation strategy, did you do it repetitively?
I never got that far because I never took it seriously enough.
Yep.
It was just one of those things that people say to do, and I hear it, well, because I'm in the yoga space. So like in the yoga space, this is everywhere of like affirmations and set your intention and this kind of stuff. And it felt like there was never it just always felt airy-fairy to me in a way that I couldn't grab onto and take seriously.
Yeah. And so what's happening is that people are reporting like real phenomena in imprecise ways and with relatively ineffective methods. And so the reason that you feel like I don't believe this is because when you consciously say something that conflicts with your actual neural pathways, your subconscious programs, that creates cognitive dissonance. It creates confusion. I don't believe this. So anything where you're
Mhm.
trying to do a conscious reframe, that is an element where it backfires. You create this level of disagreement between the two. And when there's a disagreement, the subconscious program always wins. So that's one part. The second part is that it's not targeted. So you're just picking something generic, right? So the encoded system, because of the method, you're like, when you saw the report, you're like, whoa, like this is me, right? That that
Yes.
that element of creating what is the actual thing that we are trying to replace, right? So saying a generic like I am abundant doesn't get to the root of what is actually the subconscious program holding you back. So the generic element of it is another. Um,
Mhm.
Handwriting is definitely taken for granted in terms of its effectiveness. So it's shown in science that handwriting activates three different parts of your brain in a level to create neuroplasticity that is far more effective in producing new neural pathways and structural change in your brain. And then the repetition of it combined with reinforcing action. So when you repeat it in the handwriting, it engrades more effectively. You feel less internal friction. Then you start actually showing up that way. It creates a belief loop, and that's creates the effectiveness of it. And so um, people are pointing to a real phenomenon, but in a way where a majority, and it's just because it's not precise enough for people to take and actually implement in their life, that a majority stays conscious, like the
Mhm.
activity stay. So therapy also stays conscious, right? So therapy, affirmations, conscious reframing, things like that stay up there. And so what happens is you generally will feel a short-term benefit,
Mhm.
but very inconsistent lasting change because you're not producing an actual structural change in your brain.
Mhm.
And so what is the mechanism that takes something from conscious to subconscious, or like what is that? Is that the handwriting and the repetition of that?
So the best way to understand this is to clearly understand how do the current programs that I have, how they get there, right? So everyone has
Mhm.
has programs running, right? So how do they get there?
Mhm.
Throughout my life, people told me certain things. They said,
Yes.
if you want to be successful, you got to work hard, right? Like don't go too far out. You don't want to stick out. That's not safe, right? Like whatever, right? There's a million of them. You better work for a company and study science because that's responsible, right? Don't go into music. People in music don't make any money. It's like you're unlikely to succeed, right? So there's thousands of those, right? And so people tell you it, then you see in the world, in your experience, confirming experiences of, oh yeah, if I do stand out, that isn't safe, someone might judge me, right? So through that repetition, you're not choosing it, but it's being installed,
Yep.
right? So over time, and then with social media and digital stuff, it just creates a reinforcement loop where it doesn't even feel like a program. It feels like a fact about the world and who you are.
Yep.
So that's how they get installed. And so the way that we basically create a new dominant pathway is in the same method. So one, by repeating repetitiveness in just what happens to be the most effective way to activate them right now based on science is handwriting, more effective than typing, visualizing, speaking, reading, because of the different areas of your brain that it activates. then combining that with lived experience of showing up and doing something differently, and just combining that into a loop to a level where that pathway gets strong. So in it's actually super simple. Just that like a majority of us have not been taught it. And maybe we'll get to that in the book. And it's because it's the reason that this is becoming more important now is because we're in the midst of an economic shift where the information that we store in our brain is no longer as valuable as it used to be. And it's not because it's not useful, it's just because it's not abundant anymore.
This is a great time to shift, I think, into the new era that you're speaking of, the frequency era that you are naming it as such.
Hmm.
But I mean, this is a question on our minds daily. We're both currently making our livings as project managers, and so what is that all? But there's also, aspirations. I feel like God has um
Cold upon you. Yeah.
in a way, yes. That my path is really to be a writer. And do you want to name your path?
Yeah, so we have, I mean, again, like we're doing project management for paychecks, and we're pretty good at it too.
Hmm.
But then, of course, a 30-year dream of becoming a professional musician, and then also noticing like early on that I was able to kind of listen to people and just kind of hear them out, what they were saying. People came to me with problems and stuff. So I started thinking, oh, maybe like I can do some like being a therapist or, being like a coach, right? So I'm also on that path. And so I have these three paths going. And AI kind of threw a grenade into the middle of it because it's ultimately like, well, I can see all three of them be quite easily replaced with AI, or not just with AI, but with the value that I might be bringing in or might be thinking about my future and said, oh well, I want to convert what I'm doing into a value because value is then reinforced by money, let's say, right? Or can be monetized in some way, right?
Hmm.
So how can I create that loop that I'm doing something I love, plus I'm able to monetize it and we're winning. It's awesome, right? So now with this AI, it's not only that all of those might be AI might be doing it much better than I can ever, let's say. And also there's this other thought of like, should we still be thinking about, oh, I need this thing to monetize it so I have money? Or like, do we need to rethink that thought? Even
Hmm.
that, like the goal is to get to a place so I can support myself. So of course, like the basic needs will continue to probably be a reality for us, right? But like the go make $10 million versus $100 million versus $1 million, like is there still a difference in that in the
Hmm.
AI world? But anyway, there's a couple of things to choose to which way do you want to go with it.
Amazing. So, where do you want to start?
What so like what do you think is the or like how do you see a human value shifting in the AI era? And uh, what will be, because we're, again, the basic thing is like the value is the thing that is rewarded in our system, right? So unless
Hmm.
the system is not changing, which might be changing as well, but like how do we find human value in this very digital world?
Perfect. So, I think that the best way for somebody to grasp this and to understand how it works is to go back in history. And so, if you in the year 1800, it wasn't that long ago
Right.
that 90% of the humans that participated in the economy worked on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And when they worked on a farm, they had developed these skills. They could read the weather patterns. They could tell whether the soil was ready to be planted or whether they should wait another year. They could read the feeling of an animal about whether it was going to be sick or not. These are,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to underappreciate them now, but these were real, tangible, valuable skills back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what happened was that in 1890, automation started to automate that level of the job, the
Mm-hmm.
mechanical reaper, the tractor, other things like that, that automated this truly like labor intensive physical labor on a farm. And so the value shifted at that point from physical labor to what they called skilled labor.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that succeeded in that transition moved from farms to factories. And in 1940, 55% of the people that worked in the economy worked in a factory. The
Mm-hmm.
people that used to work on a farm, the farm employment declined from 90% to 4%, and a majority of people started to work in a factory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's easy to underappreciate these things too, but people were able to manage production. They were able to feel whether the machines were going to break or they were running cleanly. They had all of these inherent skills that they had developed through decades of work. And then industrial automation came and other parts that started to automate skilled labor work. And the people that succeeded in that transition shifted from being a factory skilled labor worker to a knowledge worker, where they stopped making money with their muscles and they started making money using the information they stored in their brain. Now, so that's up until 1970. And at that point, knowledge work has now expanded. And now about 65% of people that participate in the economy make money with their brain using a computer or some level of information.
Mm-hmm.
So the center of these transitions is where is the precise part of human economic value, which
Mm-hmm.
for most of our lifetime has been the information you store in your brain and how you apply it.
Yep.
And so that becomes the first thing that gets set based on effectively supply and demand. Right. In
Mm-hmm.
1970, if you were a doctor and you had information, you were incredibly valuable based on the information you had in your brain. Nobody else had it. There wasn't ChatGPT. You didn't have Wikipedia. You couldn't look up your symptoms. Like if you needed to know something, the doctor was the person that had the information. It was incredibly scarce. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, the economy paid a huge premium for that information because it was hard to get. You had to go through years of medical school, decades of actual practice to collect this information. Right. So from there, the entire construct of society gets built around that. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
other way around. So
Mm-hmm.
once that new economic value is established, then colleges become popular and almost like mandatory to participate. Resumes become the main way for you to be able to demonstrate your competency and knowledge for them to verify that you can be good for a job. Even the level of people moving to cities. People move to cities because you would go to an office in a high rise building and it collected a lot of people where you could network for volume because relationships and networking in person was how you discovered and got opportunities. So all of these different rules of society get built around this core layer of where is the human value. Now, over the past 20 years, there's been some things that have changed. The first one
Mm-hmm.
was the internet, which started to make information less scarce. It was easier to look up your symptoms or things like that. Then social media. Now you don't just get news on your television by three different, stations. Now you can get news and information from a lot of people. And then lastly, artificial intelligence, which has been rapidly expanding the abundance of knowledge and information processing. And so, based on supply and demand, when the scarce premium resource of human value of information accumulation and processing becomes abundant, the premium on it comes down. So the economy is now paying less for these skills, and it will continue to decline over time, which means, and we're seeing it in the statistics, less entry-level jobs. It's like the worst entry-level job market in the past 40 years, not because the economy is necessarily bad. You can have your own opinion on that however you wish, but it's because entry-level jobs are the easiest to automate with artificial intelligence. That stress, burnout, and mental health has never. It's a crisis considered in America and globally. 75% of people report extreme stress and intermittent burnout. And it's estimated it costs the global economy $12 trillion a year. Software development, which was supposed to be the job that was totally impossible to automate because it was too complex, those jobs are down since 2022 and will continue to go in that direction. And so these are the point that I'm making with those statistics is that this is already occurring.
Yep.
It's already occurring that the value of the information you store in your brain and how you process it is going down. The mental health statistics are people trying to continue to play a game that isn't working as much anymore. So they're getting declining returns on their effort, applying more effort, but it's still declining in returns. And that's why you get to burnout. Like, why isn't this working for me? A lot of people not like feeling like they are achieving the thing that the success they were told that they would achieve if they did these things. And so when information is abundant, the assumptions about how the world works and what the society was built on start to break. And so that's what's happening right now. And so the question becomes, well, okay, so if information processing is being automated, then what is the next thing to do? What is the next thing? Now, the current sentiment that's being pushed by most people is either one of two things. One is I need to be the best person to manage AI. And then the second one is no matter what, AI is going to take all our jobs and we're going to live on universal basic income. Those are the two prevailing sentiments in the media if you listen closely today. So to cover both of them, being the best at managing AI, and that's being the main thing, is equivalent to being the factory worker that was the best at managing the industrial automation. You are fighting to be the last man standing or last woman standing, last person standing in a economic market that is declining, and the longer that you stay in it is the longer that you are not developing the skills of the future era. So that's something to be aware of. This is not to say don't use AI. It's to say, where is the actual human value that I need to develop? And then the second one, that we're all going to lose a job and be on universal basic income. In every historical modern transition, that has never happened. It's not that human value disappears. It's that it moves. And so it's not that it just moves to a different place where humans now have a valuable, scarce resource that cannot be automated, right? So what's the magic question? What cannot be automated? And the way to get here is to look at, okay, so what are the fundamental limitations of artificial intelligence, right? What is it? It processes it gets loaded with basically all the information, all the books, everything that's been created in history, Reddit threads, chats, videos, is just getting loaded with information about what's said, and then it's able to process it and is at a fundamental level a prediction engine. So it is predicting based on what you put in, what would be the most reasonable answer based on everything that in the past that it's studied. So when you look at that as a fundamental limitation, then what can it not do? It cannot come up with totally new ideas. It can only look back at things that have already been done, and it can connect patterns. It can make new combinations of existing ideas, but fundamentally new ideas, it cannot come up with. A human needs to put it in and do it. It cannot know what's right for you in this exact moment. It can predict what would be right for the average person based on all the stuff that it knows, but it doesn't know what's right for you in this moment with your values and your business and your life with your children. It will not know that answer. That needs to be decided by you. right? So it cannot have discernment and judgment. And there are a variety of other limitations about it that all root back to the quality of the person that's doing the thinking, the creating, and the deciding. And that leads us into physiology. And so at a physiological level, which has not been explored up to this point, similar to how nobody managed the IQ of a factory worker. The factory worker did have an IQ. They could have done knowledge work. Simply, the economy did not require it at that point. So because it wasn't relevant, they didn't measure it, and the person was never driven to develop those capacities that they always had. And so the point of the book is that we all have these incredible capacities. We call them the human intelligence capacities. The ability to be creative, to trust ourselves, to have deep discernment, tune into our intuition, have visions for the future that haven't been there before for our life, for our business, for the world, for society, to act autonomously, to be intentional, to be adaptable. That these are actually the premium skills in order to navigate this new era, where the conditions of this new era will be rapid change, right? You will be flooded with AI generated information and content, most of which is definitely not relevant to you and might point you in the right direction if you do not know how to discern what's right for you and what's not for you. Adaptability in the conditions of like new AI changes and all this different stuff. If you are not adaptable, you will see it as a threat. You will see it as a threat and be scared and look to somebody else to try to tell you what to do. And because things are moving fast, you need to be able to pave the way for yourself. And people are already seeing that when there's AI flooded content, that and competent average execution, that creativity becomes way more valuable, right? When AI can send emails and automate text messages and do all this transactional work, information delivery, which matters, that deep human connection, being able to connect deeply with other humans, develop trust, make people feel safe, make people feel have more capability and more expansiveness within themselves, that becomes a premium resource. And so that is what we are. I'll pause here because I've been going for a while, and I'm sure you have a bunch of questions that'll help me continue to communicate this. But that is the fundamental shift, and we call it the frequency era because the point is we had the agricultural era, which organized around farms, the industrial era, which organized around production and mass production. We had the information era, which organized around the knowledge you stored in your brain and how you applied it. And now we have the frequency era, which human value is organized around your frequency, your subconscious foundation, and the quality of your nervous system that allows you to express all of these innate human intelligence capabilities before you start thinking and doing. That's the key element, that you don't choose to be creative. You don't, if you have to think about and try to convince yourself to trust yourself in a decision, that you're already too late, right? That you don't try to sit down and meditate in order to have a vision for the future. That these are capacities that are built that allow these things to happen naturally, consistently.
You go. I know that you have things.
I mean, there's yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, it's definitely is very hopeful, and it has this hopeful sense in it of like, hey, this is not all lost. We're not gonna all lose our jobs and sit on our butts and watch Netflix, right? Because yeah, I mean,
but in these transitions, the people that don't move do face pain, right? The factory workers that didn't move to the knowledge era faced declining returns on their effort, lower opportunity, lower income, and then eventually got forced because they got fired 10 or 15 years after the transition happened, and then entered a competitive market 15 years behind. And so it's not that it's not that everybody, I hope that everybody sees it and develops these capacities, but in all modern history, there are winners and losers, so to speak, or there are people that benefit more greatly than others. The thing that I love about this one is that everyone can do it, and it's a very level playing field. So it's the most economic opportunity for the most people that's ever happened in history.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, for sure. Like the access to knowledge being there for literally everyone on the planet who has internet access. That seems kind of like very. I mean, that could not be more a leveled playing field for sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. I guess there's a couple of questions. The like I don't, and maybe this is all gonna change because of it. But like, how would we're still thinking about it from the standpoint of a job, right? Like some company, some business owner out there will need people who have these skills, or is it more about like, no, you're not gonna be needed by other uh, company owners. We all gonna become kind of entrepreneurial thinkers, and maybe to your point, it's not all of us, but maybe it's half of the people, and somehow the new society works, that we are all kind of unique thinkers, and we have these. We're plugged into maybe we're working with AI, and we're coming up with new ideas that are being executed then by maybe more automations, but ultimately it's helping other humans, and this is valuable then, and somehow some tokens will come to our wallets, or whatever system of reward for or exchange for value there's going to be. But yeah, that's where I can't really still wrap my head around of like how is my ability to um, come up with some idea, like I still gonna have to go and build it all, and have that trust in myself and have some investment into, well, I'm gonna have to now do this for 6 months and see if that actually works, and maybe that turnaround time is much quicker with AI. But just kind of, I don't know, this is where my head is going.
Yeah. So it's not that all the other jobs go away, right? Still 7% of the economy are people that work in factories. There's still a marginal percent, 2-3% of the economy that work on a farm, right? So it's not that all the jobs are going away, but that those jobs used to be 70% of the economy and be the most valuable part of the economy, right? And so the point here is not that everything else is going away. The point is, what is the most scarce premium resource that the economy organizes around? What is the biggest opportunity, right? And so I expect that there will be 10% of the economy of people that are amazing at leveraging AI, right? Amazing. What I'm saying is that they just won't be the most valuable people in the economy. That's the point. And so because when those when it starts to reach maturity and scale, it will become a core. It'll be like using email, right? It'll be like posting on social media. It'll become a core competency for people that is not that valuable. Or designing a production system, right? You'll be a director of production, but not necessarily the founder, entrepreneur, things like that. So, and when you can build anything, right? When you can whip up anything, the question is, what is worth building, right? What is worth building? Why am I doing it? How do I connect with others to make an impact for people? Because you can see people that are spinning up 10 products with OpenClaw and Claude, and you got 10 products that nobody wants, right? That's all it's a commodity thing. And so it's that part where software development used to be a scarce premium resource that we needed to raise tens of millions of dollars to build a product. Now you can do it in a weekend, right? So that just becomes a part of a commodity. Now, so the people that become the most premium are the people that can decide, can filter through all the information and say, this is the direction that we're going. I trust myself. I'm ready to go on it, rather than hitting up McKinsey and waiting 6 months to try to get a PDF for someone else to tell them what to do because they don't trust themselves and they don't see clearly, right? And in that 6 months, you've entirely lost a market opportunity. Things are moving way faster than they used to.
Faster, yeah.
So people that like to have true creativity, to connect dots that other people haven't before, to come up with totally new ideas. It's not a thinking exercise. It's something that happens before you think. And so that those become the most valuable things. I do also agree that hierarchies are going to collapse. The reason that a corporate hierarchy exists is because knowledge is scarce and we want to accumulate as many people and because they have knowledge into a hierarchy because that creates more IP and a competitive advantage, right?
Yep.
That fundamental premise is already breaking, and you can see the hierarchies of middle management collapsing because it's just no longer necessary. So companies will get way smaller, and you will have way more overall companies, right? Much instead of aggregating 7 mega companies, which they will still exist, but there will just be way less people working in them and way more companies overall. So more entrepreneurs. I don't know what the time frame was, but there was a time in history that wasn't too long ago where a majority of people worked for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a relatively new idea in humanity that I work for somebody else and get paid a salary for my time.
Yeah.
So is then the advice for this new era is, the way I'm understanding it, to work on our frequency, to understand like this is what I really want to do with my life. Like my life has a purpose, it has a mission. This is what I'm going to do with it. Me personally, I feel like I have that. And then there are some like, I guess, weird questions just about like not knowing obviously what the future is going to look like, because how would we know that? But, I think with this era change generally, there's sort of like this, it works me up in a way where I'm like, I have a direction that I know, and that's, at least I have that, because I see some people don't even have that. So okay, great, I have that. But is that also going to be disrupted by AI, and I need to now like change and want something else all of a sudden? I guess like that is where I'm just not sure if it's okay to want what I want in a sense, or if like AI is going to disrupt even that. And maybe I can put this more concretely, like I want to be an author and I want to make my living as a person who brings stories out into the world. And is AI going to disrupt my ability to do that?
If you do competent average work, then it will be disrupted.
Yes.
If you do creative visionary work that
Yes.
creates a deep connection with others and go in a new direction, it will be a premium will be paid on that.
Thank you for the nuance and that distinction there, because I think that's ultimately where the confusion has been. It's like, yes, it's going to disrupt part of that, but not if you're the type of person who's going to be delivering something only you can deliver and resonate with other people in only a way that what you deliver can do.
Indeed. And so a couple of points here. So first off, for many people, this feels like chaos and scary, right? Because their entire life they have been given a map with clear directions about what to do. So there's been a predefined: go to high school, go to college, get an entry level job, climb the corporate ladder, get a house. Like their path has been subconsciously paved for them, right? So, and even inside of professional development, the same thing has happened. And even inside of a day-to-day work environment, to ask McKinsey for an answer instead of deciding it for yourself. So what's happened is that the economy and the way it's been structured has systematically untrained the internal compass of basically every human on the planet. And so, and when you're not forced to use that compass, it's not developed. Imagine never going to the gym and thinking that you're going to be strong, right? Those capacities have not been forced to be used and therefore not developed. And so when we're in this situation, um, when when you develop this level of clarity, self-trust, autonomy, then it becomes like I'm navigating the terrain with a compass that I realize that I don't know where it's going to go, but I do trust my ability to navigate this terrain and get to where I want to go. And so that's a huge switch that allows you to follow this creativity. And if you hit a dead end, to literally just come back and change direction and keep going. And so it's an entirely different way of simply navigating your personal and professional life than what most people have been trained to do, because the economic conditions have changed so much.
Yeah.
So that's a huge point. And then when we come to like what is our purpose, or how we, what are we doing? How do we want to look at that? In my personal experience and studying a lot of the data around all the encoded members in an anonymized, aggregated way, is that clarity on purpose really doesn't even come into form until you reach tier 3. Meaning that until then, there are too many subconscious programs that drive you to think this is what I should do, or this is what I'm supposed to do, or I better do this because it's safe and responsible, rather than what you're really meant to do. So when it comes to clarity of purpose and intent, that it is removing these programs that are blocking what's always been there. So that's a really interesting element. And then by tier 4, you're fully locked into what you're doing and why. So that's an interesting angle, because I think most people try to go out and search for their purpose, or even once they feel like they have an idea, sort of be like, but this like isn't responsible. I might fail, or something like that. And when you cultivate the frequency that supports it, you realize this was always there. It was just scrambled by all the noise. And when you cultivate that frequency, once you realize it, there's no doubt, there's no hesitation. I'm doing this right now. And so that has been a really interesting view, because that is coming up a lot. A lot of people are like, I'm tired of doing whatever I'm doing, right? I want to do something that has more meaning, that I'm more excited about, right? And so the question is how. And so so far to me, that feels like the pursuit is really about removing the noise of seeing what's always been there.
Gosh, I feel like I'm such a strange bird. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm a fine bird.
You're a fine bird.
I'm a fine bird. In a sense that, like, you talk a lot about these subconscious programs of like what's responsible or what I should do. And yes, I have that, but I think I've always had also just, and I was a theater major, like growing up, like that's what I studied in school. And so I have a lot of friends who are in sort of like the arts and like the liberal arts space, where we want to do things, like we want to bring creative projects into the world, but we're not necessarily like successful with those creative projects. Like I know a lot of like creative people who are bringing projects, businesses into the world, and are not successful with those endeavors. And so like there's some a little bit of confusion around that, I would say, because on one hand it feels like there's purpose, there's mission, but on another hand it's like something's not working with that either. And maybe it's what you're talking about, but it's when you're also talking about of like what I should do, the responsible thing, like, gosh, I wish I almost had more of that in a sense. But like I see how it undermines us also. And I just do you kind of see where I'm at with this at all?
So the biggest part, and then one part of it, is simply evaluating your own definition of success. What does success
Sure.
mean, right? I know a lot of people that are that meet the definition of traditional success, meaning status, fame, and money, that are miserable, addicted to drugs, in the hospital because they're so stressed out, travel 300 days of the year, never see their children because they're either divorced and they only see them once a week, or because they're traveling so much that they never see their children. Is that success? I don't think so, right? It meets the definition of traditional success, but it doesn't meet the definition of my definition of success. And so one of the things is just challenging, what does success mean? Um, and up until this point in the previous economic era, that a majority of humans, including myself, until I acknowledged it and changed it, that we are conditioned into what are known as hedonic intentions, meaning that we are not even aware of it, but the underlying driver of our behavior and decisions is to prove, impress, accumulate, or avoid
Yep.
failure.
Yeah. Yep.
And that the thing that comes from that is that our emotional state and how we feel is dictated by the things that are happening outside of us, which was a relatively reliable strategy in 1980 and 90, when conditions changed slowly and you could slowly climb a corporate ladder and
Mhm.
different things, like, and and then you could fill the gap by overworking and achieving and those types of things. That strategy is falling apart right now. And so
Mhm.
if you are reliant on those conditions in order to feel okay, and if those conditions aren't right, then you feel bad, then you're in for a very heavy ride emotionally, and being at the mercy of external conditions dictating how you feel every single day, which is just a terrible, a suboptimal way to go about your life right now. So, and it's shown over and over again in science that people that have hedonic intentions, which again is a majority of the population and me up until like 2 years ago, that people that have hedonic intentions have lower life satisfaction, have more regret over key life decisions, and those types of things, because they place their success on external markers.
Mhm.
Now, the true inverse of this is not new. Actually, Aristotle talked about it in whatever year that guy was alive, called eudaimonic intentions, meaning
Judemonic.
that my success is derived through the pursuit of my own capacity and potential.
Mhm.
That is the key marker of success. That as I express more of the creativity inside of me, as I make more of a more great solutions for other people, as I feel more clear, trust myself more, do express more of the power inside of me, that is the key marker of success. And when we do that, we accumulate. We do accumulate resources and external markers of success, but it is not the core driver.
Mhm.
Now, when you are able to shift your frequency into this state, that we have sustained energy. It's not dependent on external conditions. We have our emotional baseline is steady, regulated. We're not dependent on external things happening in order to feel okay. That we have greater life satisfaction, and we usually build lasting, more impactful things for others by focusing in this way. And so the interesting thing is that when this era shifts and the human value gets centered differently and society rebuilds around it, that society will rebuild around eudaimoc intentions because it directly maps to the development of frequency, which is the most valuable thing. So what is it? What does it end up being? That my success is derived by the development and expression of my frequency. That is the key marker of success. And that, as you've already probably experienced so far, that as I continue to develop my frequency, I also achieve all these other things. My relationships get better. I make more money. I feel more connected to my purpose. I do more creative work. I act more autonomously. Like those are actually great markers of success. It even makes me feel good just talking about them. So that is an element that is in the process of shifting, and people reporting, I want to follow my purpose, or I want to find my purpose, is simply an element of that shift happening.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Fascinating. Yeah, that's it's all connected underneath it all. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, very cool.
When you said earlier, you said like tier 4 is when you can actually, is when some of the subconscious programming is no longer driving a lot of what we want or what we're trying to get out of the world. What are these numbers referring to? Like when I first did the frequency process, at the end it spit out to me the number 1.9. Is that what you're referring to here, of like tier 4 and I'm at 1.9?
Precisely.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a maturity model published on our website, and it's being integrated into the product as we speak, so that you'll be able to reference it, and then be able to use that to identify what are the key things that would move me from tier 1 to tier 2, right? Even micro shifts, right? From 1.6 to 1.9 feels electric. It feels different. And shifting from 1.9 to 2.1, it almost feels like you're a different person, right? You're not a different person. You're just the same person operating at an entirely new frequency. And each one of those has consistent things that occur in how it feels, how you relate to everything, how you make decisions, and what are the key things to focus on. It's every human goes through, they have different circumstances in their life, but the path of development is pretty much the things they must train and develop are pretty much the same as it goes. And so from tier 1 to tier 2, right? And so our estimate is that about 75 or 80% of high performers are currently in tier 1. So if you took the total population, it's probably like 90, could be 90% or higher, right?
Sure.
That are operating in tier 1. The key part of tier 1 is that I view the world in whatever I've been told to view it as. Like the world is the way that I've been told it is. It's the key thing. And in tier 1, because you haven't realized that it's a program or conditioning yet, that it's viewed as a fact about how the world works, and therefore most solutions are seeked are surface level. So the key part of moving from tier 1 to tier 2 is simply realizing that these are programs, not facts. It's about as simple as it gets. That moves you into a tier 2 state of just like, no, this is not the way it is. From inside of tier 2 is simply the process of seeing all the programs clearly: success, work, money, productivity, relationships. Like there's so much that we are programmed about what a relationship even should be, what it should feel like, by movies, social media, like all these different things throughout our entire life. To see them as programs and then decide for yourself what they mean to you. And in tier 2, the way that it feels is that we're out there seeking answers from other people. We're reading a ton of books. We're asking coaches for the answer. So that's without a map. That's what happens. We go outside of ourselves to try and figure out what's going on. The shift from tier 2 to tier 3 is simply the decision, and it's half conscious, but it sort of happens automatically as you go through it and rewrite the programs, that nobody knows what's right for me except for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so you stop looking for answers outside of yourself. And tier 3 is simply the process of developing full, complete self-trust. That you never need to ask someone what you should do, right? So there's a lot of you know, back and forth and moving forward and falling back going on in tier 3. In tier 3, you are also experiencing the beginning of true emotional sovereignty, meaning that you have rewritten enough of the programs that your anxiety is down 80%,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't feel guilty when you're taking a nap ever, right? Like some of those are some examples, right? That you're starting to feel the realness of true emotional sovereignty and ownership, because all those emotions are created through our programs. So when we move to tier 4, and in tier 3, right? So now we've rewritten the programs. We're starting to trust ourselves more. The noise is down. Purpose becomes a lot more clear. So now we have hints.
Mm-hmm.
Now we start to see things, and honestly, at least in my experience, it is not what you would think it would be when you're in tier 1. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually usually maybe the top level idea, but the how and like the drive of the direction are usually totally different.
Mm-hmm.
When we reach tier 4, we are um, we are fully in eudaimonic clean intentions, meaning that we no longer need to prove, impress, accumulate, or avoid failure in order to protect or feel better about ourselves. That's one key driver. We have full emotional sovereignty, meaning that we never experience these cognitively driven negative emotions: anxiety, guilt, frustration, anger, shame, things like that. It's not that we don't cry or feel sad. That's not a cognitively driven negative emotion. That's actually real, right? Um, so we have full emotional sovereignty, full self trust, and we are fully in our purpose, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now we have eliminated all the things that were getting in our way. Now we know what it is. Now we build from an entirely different foundation. We're doing it for the right reasons, with clarity, self trust, and the beginning of adaptability and autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Now then it becomes building. The move from tier 4 to tier 5 is that now because the vision is communicated so clearly, that now other people begin to do the building for you. So other people are now going into your system. It's not just like Elon Musk building a business. That's not really what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing here. It's that other people, because of the meaning of what you're building, other people feel drawn to participate in it.
Yeah.
So now it's more about holding a vision for where the world is going, and the clean, pure intentions of why you're doing it. And then tier 6 is when it reaches a global scale. It's totally unstoppable. It has nothing to do with you anymore. That other people are building it. It spreads so much. It's impacting societal systems like
Mm-hmm.
currency, education, government, food supply, pharmaceuticals, medicine. Some type of societal system is being fundamentally changed and improved based
Mm-hmm.
on your creation and frequency. So that's
That would
the
be called success, I would say.
and it's simply an expression of being of having, it's a multitude of things, but a lot of it is having the right intentions for why you're doing it, right? So when you think about people that have achieved success before, they achieve expense at the expense of their relationship with their family and children, at the expense of the
Mm-hmm.
environment, at the expense of communities, right? Like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but Walmart was a big player in the opioid epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
It destroyed families and communities, right?
Yeah.
So So it's that when our definition of success is more complete than just money and power, that it must energize the environment. It everyone that's involved there's no compromises or trade-offs, money for something else.
Hmm.
That it must accomplish all of these things. So we have a much broader definition of success when we're building, and we create a much more impactful, lasting creation and system because of it.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, the money is one of my deep myelinated pathways is looking at everything through money, right? Like, hey,
Hmm.
like, am I going to be able to monetize this, right? And therefore, I am going that way, or I'm not going that way, right? Versus you're talking about something different. It's like, well, if that's your decision making, that's going to be difficult to actually see the right path for myself if it's driven only by, like, hey, can I turn this into money, right? So, and again, thank God with music, because that's the one thing that I said, I don't care, like that, like I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm doing it
Hmm.
because I did really truly enjoy doing this, and when I'm done, I have great feeling of doing it, and nobody has to be in the room, and just having that connection. It's like that trunks the monetization of it. And sure, in 30 years I haven't made a dime with it, right? But
Hmm.
maybe that wasn't really even the goal, you know.
Hmm.
Even though in some uh, young age I would think of, like, I want to be a professional musician and make my living and make my money with music. And I at some point had to kind of divorce those two ideas and say, you know what, maybe I supposed to be a project manager for a long time and do music as my passion and hobby, and maybe at some point they will, unite on one side and say, okay, I can actually do what I love, plus uh, am able to afford living, let's say. um, that would be amazing, but that's not really kind of, it's not this big goal there right now. My goal
Hmm.
is more just keep writing music, keep putting them out there, and see what the results come back from that. Yeah.
And
That I have
the
a
like
better relationship with myself and with music and with everybody else around me, I'm sure, because of that. Because of, like, okay, I just have to do it for these other reasons instead of constantly combining it with money. And I'm sure that came from growing up in more of a lack environment. Everything was lacking, right? So then money becomes this big, like, I need to achieve this thing with this money, then things will not lack in that world, right? But of course, I know that it's not true, right?
hmm
But yeah, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah,
and
thanks
just
for
the
explaining.
the total possibility that that the act of creating music and expressing it translates to something else that you use to create a product or a business or something else like that,
Mhm.
that the act of that creativity is actually building a capacity that goes with you and can be used anywhere.
Anywhere,
um
yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
several years ago, I used to view, if I was going to do something, it must be productive, right? It must
Mhm, mhm,
produce something for me that is tangible, whether it's like basically money or health, right? So all I
mhm,
did was sit at my laptop and work out. I'm like, that's it.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
Um, and as I began to appreciate, whoa, it's like actually the things that matter most in what I'm doing is my decision making, in my self trust, in my creativity, in my ability to come up with new ideas, to have a vision that other people want to be a part of. Then I started to see trying to learn how to kite surf as a productive activity for my creativity. That
mhm,
building a
mhm,
sandcastle on the beach was no longer a waste of time.
mhm,
That traveling was no longer keeping me away from work. It was giving me experiences that improved my creativity and allowed me to force me to empower others and delegate. And so through that process, now I've seen hobbies like producing music not as necessarily a money maker, but more of a cultivator for the other ways that I do produce money.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Now, there was one more element that I wanted to get in, and I could go forever, but I see that
Yeah,
we're
right.
pretty deep
Yeah,
into
for
this.
sure.
So you mentioned the clarity of the structure of how everything is flowing being so powerful for you. And so I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking through, right? Because most people just see it as I feel something, I do something, and then I get a result. And so understanding the deeper layers and the physiology around it, I think can be a huge unlock for people.
Totally.
And so the way that it works is that we have established neural pathways in our brain. Based on that, it automatically routes into those programs determine what is our nervous system feeling and doing. So it determines the state of our nervous system, whether it's in the sympathetic or parasympathetic state. And our nervous system then drives how our body responds to everything: inflammation, our heart rate, how our hormones are allocated, the resources that we have in our brain, whether our digestion is working good or slowing down. Basically, our entire body is powered by our nervous system automatically before we start thinking or doing anything.
Mhm,
So, when we are in specifically a tier one or a tier two state, and these programs are there, there's always programs. Just what are they, and are they benefiting us or not? That we are interpreting every single moment automatically without thinking about it, and that's driving how our nervous system is responding. Now, then it sets our nervous system in a specific state, and
mhm,
based on that, that determines how big the capacity of our nervous system, the ability to take on demand, uncertainty, responsibility without being overloaded and dysregulating. So, what's the capacity of our nervous system to be able to maintain clear thinking, judgment, emotional regulation, even under certain conditions, right? Some people, like someone says three words to them and they're totally dysregulated. Other people are not like that, right? So the threshold of capacity is very different person to person. And during someone's development, even my capacity 2 years ago to now is entirely different.
mhm,
Um, that capacity is basically how much can we take on, but also how many resources go to our prefrontal cortex. And in our prefrontal cortex is where all the most powerful human intelligence capabilities live. And they occur, the conditions for these capacities occur before we think, if that makes sense. So we are not trying to think clearly. We either are or we either have created the
mhm,
conditions that we operate with clarity or we don't, right?
Yes.
Or we've created the conditions where we operate with clarity under easy conditions but are inconsistent as conditions are more demanding, right?
Mhm.
mhm,
So it's not like a yes or a no. For many people, it'll show up as inconsistency, that I'm creative one day, but then I go through a creative dry
mhm,
spell. That, like, for me, I used to have visions for my business once a year. So that was inconsistent. And then when my company relied on me to come up with new ideas, I didn't have the capacity to do it all the time. Now it occurs like at least once a month. So I've
mhm,
developed the capacity for it to be my ability to access it more consistently. That we don't, if we're deliberating about our ability to trust ourselves consciously, it's too late. That we create the condition that we are automatically in a state that we
mm,
trust ourselves before we even start doing anything.
Yes.
mhm,
Um, so
And then how
so
do you think, sorry to interrupt you, but like
no, I
how do
love
you
it.
think about different like inputs then to that? So like booze or ganja or other things. I'm just thinking to myself of like I quit drinking a year and a half ago, and that to me was like a really big disruptor to my clarity of thought. And like that was a
Mhm.
big reason why I needed to stop drinking, was like I didn't have the clarity of thought that I wanted to have in the day. And same thing with ganja.
Yep. So imagine that your nervous system capacity is like a battery. Okay. And that battery then powers all the functions in your body, and it determines how much demand you can take on, right? So when we drink alcohol or don't get a good night's sleep or some of those things, all we're doing, like let's say we have a AAA battery, that's our nervous system capacity. All we're doing is we're draining our battery. So now the next day or for some period of time, now we're operating at 30% instead of the full battery of our 100% AAA battery, right? And then if we dial in our nutrition and sleep properly and don't do booze and we do all of the physical optimization that we can do, we will be operating at 100% of our AAA battery, right? And our AAA battery can power the remote control of a TV, but it's not a generator that's going to power a house. See what I mean? So biohacking and optimization simply allows us to express the 100% of the capacity that we have. Now, so how do we go from a AAA battery to a bigger battery to eventually a generator, right? How we expand our capacity is through upgrading our frequency, our subconscious programs. And the way that it works is that when we truly update a program, like it's not safe to stand out, right? And now it's like I share my truth and wisdom to inspire others, right? There's an automatic thing that's happening in the background that's setting the state of our nervous system and putting us more into fight or flight mode than into the other mode that is regenerative for our body. So when we update it, the state of our nervous system shifts. So we immediately feel more levels of clarity, more levels of self-trust, things like that. More resources to our prefrontal cortex to express more of our human intelligence capacities. There's a second, so that's the effect that people feel. The second effect is that when that happens for a sustained period of time, it sends a signal to our body, to specifically our vagus nerve, our HPA axis, and says, we are more safe now than we used to be. We can desensitize. And that feeds the system back and says, we don't need to be like this anymore. And our battery grows. So now our battery is expanded and gets bigger, meaning we can take on more demanding conditions and we have more power to feed our human intelligence capacities. So that's and then you just repeat that process over and over and over again. And all of a sudden you have a much larger battery, meaning that if you face uncertainty or a challenge, it just doesn't phase you anymore. It doesn't take you out of the ability to think cleanly, make good decisions, things like that. And that you have more resources expressing from your nervous system, which allows you to connect deeper with others, creativity, and all the other capacities we talk about in the book. And it's the same thing as becoming a professional athlete. It's just that as we continue to, we develop to a level where then that level of physical performance is now it used to be our ceiling, now it's our baseline. Now we show up that way automatically, then we can focus on the next level of development. And all of a sudden, now we're not a college athlete, we're a pro athlete. Now we're not just a pro athlete, we're an all-star. Now we're just not an all-star, we're in the Hall of Fame. Right. And so that's it's the process of going from it, being something that caps you out to just being how you show up that way automatically. And then from that solid foundation, then you can build on the next one.
Cool.
So it all comes down to the most people historically have focused on optimizing the state of our nervous system, right? Through things like meditation, cold plunging, not drinking alcohol, things like that. That the state is basically the charge of our battery at any one time, right? And that does provide benefits. It provides short-term benefits to our clarity, to decision-making, to emotional regulation, but it doesn't expand our ability at a structural level, if that makes sense. Once you stop the meditation, 2 days later, the effects fade. You fall back into the same neural pathways and patterns.
Yeah. It doesn't change like the atmosphere. I don't know why that's the word that's coming up for me. The atmosphere that it's all taking place within. And if I'm understanding you correctly, to circle back to this AI mindfuck, that really, if I just want to wake up and focus my energy in one place and not spend the whole day freaking out about what's going to happen. If I just put my focus on training my frequency, the rest will sort of take care of itself. In a sense, like my economic well-being will sort of happen on its own if I do the work to train my frequency and go from my 1.9 to 2 and 3 to up to 6, up to the worldwide, worldwide movement.
So it's not a just.
Okay.
It's not
yes.
just.
Thank
it's
you.
not just frequency. What it is,
not simple.
what it is a fundamental mindset switch at what is the primary method of development, right? Which used to be learning, right? So I just need to accumulate more information, right?
Yes.
That just is no longer a sustainable strategy. Like AI can outperform, it has more knowledge than any human will learn in 10,000 lifetimes. So it's just learning more stuff is important, but it can't be the primary method of development anymore based on how economics have shifted. So our primary method of development now is developing our frequency. And from that upgraded state, then everything that we do on top of it, how we show up, the stuff that we create, the things that we learn, everything that we bring to all the other things that we're doing elevates in quality, right? And so it's not like when before that we just learned, right? Nutrition also mattered, exercise also mattered. So this is more of a shift to the primary, but it doesn't make all the other things irrelevant. It simply just makes them not the primary method anymore.
That makes sense. I guess like there's things I'm working on that my encoded anchor journaling practice is keeping top of mind for me and making me come back to on a daily basis. Those are my things. Then there's also how I'm like just making my living today, which just kind of feels like incidental in some way. Like I'm a project manager. I'm making my living that way because the market valued it. And I was like, where can I go make money for things that I can do? And so that was the answer. So for better or worse, they're kind of like in my mind categorized as like two different things, like how I'm making my living today. Okay, that's fine. And then I have the stuff I'm really working on in my life that my encoded practice is helping me with. Am I covered between all of that? Like, should I be thinking about like I need to now go be doing something else on top of this? I guess like that's where my mind goes in this uncertain moment of, you know, outside of this conversation, what we really come across on terms of like podcasts for AI and all this stuff is like basically just the world is over. Like that's like basically how they make it sound out there. And it really sucks that there's not more optimism. And that like what I'm hearing just makes me want to shut down and like go under a freaking rock and like stop existing. Like that's what I feel like when I'm encountering a lot of the shit out there. So
so that just exposes the programs, right? Because I don't view this as uncertain. I actually view this as the path of the future is incredibly clear. All right, so it's simply a program that is reinforced based on what you choose to listen to and the environments that you're in, right? So over time, I have developed a level of intentionality around the information I consume, the people I'm around, the companies I work with, the people I spend time with, the ideas I consume, that because of that level of intentionality, just because I feel allergic to that type of stuff, right? I know that isn't true, and I recognize it as a program. So it's a good teaching moment because it's not a fact that this is an uncertain time. It's your experience of this time might be uncertain right now, but it's not a fact.
Gosh, the subconscious at work always makes me feel like things are a fact.
Yeah, and then why do you like your job?
It's fine, but like
Okay.
that's not, like my creative projects are really where I want to be spending my time
How long
ultimately.
have you felt like it was fine?
The whole time.
Okay. Have you ever
I
had the
came into
thought?
the job as a necessity, as like, hey,
Sure,
there's bills
most of
to
us
be
do.
paid, and I couldn't figure that out from my creative side. So it would just felt like, okay, well, here's some things I can do that'll make a paycheck.
And when you started that, the world was probably way different than it is right now, and it was probably a reliable choice whenever you started to do that.
Exactly.
Yep. Have you ever had the thought, "It's time to leave"?
Yes. I guess what stops me there is like I haven't practically built up the cushion I would need to do so.
What is the exact cushion?
Uh, God. I don't even know the amount of time that I would need to like how many mortgage payments I would need to make and grocery bills I would need to cover. It's hard to
Why?
calculate that. At what point my like creative projects would make a return on that.
At what point do you realize this threshold is totally arbitrary and just a method of procrastination?
But she's not procrastinating. She's spending a lot of her free time in the other world, right? So it's not
Indeed.
that like she's just like hoping and dreaming that, oh, if I wasn't working, then I could be doing this. She's doing both. And
I
yeah.
totally get that. The point, maybe I didn't communicate it properly, so my bad on that if it came across the wrong way, is that um what is the exact threshold, right? Is it $100,000 in the bank? Why? Because it's a round number. Is it 90? Is it 92,500? Is it 50,000? Is it 500,000?
Maybe
The
two
the
five
the
hundred, I would
Ah,
say.
I
the point
guess
is that it's arbitrary, right?
I
That
guess
that
at
there
this
Yeah.
actually is
point,
there's no clear line of when you cross from not safe to safe.
sure. I guess at this point, it's less about like what I have saved up. Maybe I said that the wrong way before. Like it's less about that, and it's more about like the generating potential on the other side. Like I'm not seeing that quite yet, and that's what makes me afraid to take that leap because
Mhm.
I don't know when that is going to be generating the money that I would need to sustain myself indefinitely moving forward into the future, where I would never need to like fall back, let's say, on
Mhm.
project management.
Mhm. So, one person's experience, I don't know if it goes for everybody, but here's what happened to me. Um, I actually got fired from my job in 2019. It was technically that I resigned, but I was politely asked to leave. And at that time, I had $3,000 in my bank account, and I had a bunch of student loans, and I was like, "What the? I'm gonna have to go find another job." And they gave me a $30,000 severance, so it wasn't much, but it allowed me for three months, and I didn't even know what a consultant was. Like I had never thought about working at an agency. I had posted on LinkedIn like 4 times in my life and gotten 3 likes. So I had never considered the fact that I would be a full time business owner in 2019. Right,
Mhm.
that was not that long ago, um, and that um, had I not been pushed into it and actually had to go and figure it out without a safety net,
Mhm.
right? I had built side businesses where I would make 15 extra $1,000 a year selling things on Amazon. It was never a real business. That if I hadn't been pushed into it, that it's possible that I still would be working at a company making 150K a year. And so
Sure.
the we underestimate how much is possible when we go fully into something, and we underestimate how much continuing to straddle the line between two things holds us back into the old thing, right? You can probably feel the straddling. You're writing down all these things over here, but then a majority of your life, you're still showing up over here, right?
Yeah.
There's this
There's a tension.
difference.
There's tension, yeah.
And so what it does is it basically it locks, it anchors you back into the old stuff, right? And even so, you know, you say I'm an entrepreneur, an artist, but then you go into work every day, maybe at a place where you don't love, or an environment that you're not thriving in, right? That basically is like reinforcing to your brain, oh, I'm not ready yet. And so, and then that says to you, I'll have to wait until I'm ready, right? And then the being ready is arbitrary, as I mentioned. So it just, no matter what happens, it's just a little, just a little out of reach. And so you're always a little bit not ready. And so that's been, I'm definitely not telling you what to do. So you do whatever you want.
It.
But,
I understand what you're saying too.
Yeah.
Don't quit your job, but if you really want to succeed, you're gonna have to at some point quit your job, right?
at some point you will realize I will figure it out.
Yeah.
That I don't, what I think that I need versus what I actually need to do what I love. There's a big difference, right? I used to think that I needed $100 million, right? It's way less than that, way less to live an incredible life. And so, and then once I realized that, right, then I realized, oh, I could sell my company right now and have all the money I would ever need, right? I don't need $100 million. I don't need a yacht. I don't need a Ferrari, right? I don't need to impress people anymore, right? And so, and then I was like, oh, well, then I can immediately stop doing the thing that I don't love anymore and I'm not passionate about, and I can immediately go do the thing that I want to do now. And so this feeling is cultivated, right? And I didn't have it when I was transitioning from an employee to an entrepreneur, but it's cultivated over time of like, just whatever happens, I trust myself to figure it out. So that can be a cool milestone, and it's often, it's I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but it's sort of an analogy that came into my head. It's like that you're riding on training wheels, right? And at some point, it's like I need to take the training wheels off. Maybe I'll fall and scrape my knee a couple times, but I'll figure out how to learn. I'm never gonna be able to learn how to ride the bike without taking off the training wheels, and maybe that's
sure. Well, I'm a 1.9, so you know where I'm at in terms of self-trust.
I started my first business I must have been lower than that. I could have been a 1.0.
So that's where my self-trust is. But I do appreciate I do appreciate that there are ways of problem solving that I am capable of, that I have not I just haven't been tested. I haven't tested myself in those ways, and that I would probably surprise myself in terms of like my level of resilience and creativity in how I solved a problem if I just took the plunge.
You would definitely, it's not probably, it's definitely surprise yourself.
Okay. Well, I guess as a result of this conversation, we're both going to put in our notice.
Maybe one at a time.
We'll be living in the van down by the river. Awesome. Chris, anything else from your end? Do you want to talk about your book for a little bit, or anything else from the book?
I think we walked through almost a majority of the chapters. We went through it. We got to chapter 15. We came back to chapter 9 for a little while. So I think we covered the book. I think we covered the book pretty well.
Beautiful.
And as I was writing the book, I felt like it was sort of meta in the process. meaning that, like, for the past year, a majority of people that used to support me in my marketing ideas now are judging me and making fun of me for pursuing something that felt a little mystical at the beginning, and now they realize that it's entirely grounded in science. Um, and to have the level of self trust and vision and autonomy to not care what 100,000 plus people are thinking about my decision and doing something that I didn't know if it was going to work. I
Mhm.
thought I had an idea, I had a vision for it. I mean, I at this point I know it's going to work. Um, but to be able to go and do that and then to publish a book about this when everyone thought I was going to publish a book about B2B marketing or something like that,
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
that that as I was writing it, I was like, this is sort of, I feel like I'm almost demonstrating the principles of the book while I write it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because there are like, I feel like everyone has ideas like this,
Mhm.
or at least the capacity to
For
have
sure.
ideas like this, and that this you don't feel it or realize it, but this subtle fear of judgment stops your creativity at like
Mhm.
10% of what you're capable of. You follow it a little bit, and then boom, you don't even realize you've made the choice, but you're only operating at 10% of your creativity.
Mhm.
Totally.
That that if you feel those types of emotions, to realize that those signals are impacting you 100% of the time, not just when you
Mhm.
feel the emotion, that stuff is running in the background, slowing down your creativity and self-trust and clarity 100% of the time. Um, I feel like many people underappreciate like some of the terms that I've used in the book. I think many people underappreciate what self-trust really means, right? What
Mm.
clarity really means, what
Mhm.
autonomy really means, right? That if you ask people, I think a lot of people would say, I already trust myself, right?
Yeah.
I do think with clarity, right? And then to be able to experience what real self-trust means, and how instead of how you make decisions in 3 seconds instead of 3 months, right?
Yeah.
How you how you can immediately like get a bunch of stuff and say that thing matters, that's what matters to me. Let's make a decision and go. Where be 3 years ago, I would deliberate for 3 months. I would
Yeah.
call 5 people and ask for their opinion. I'd think about it more because I didn't wanna make the wrong decision, right? In reality, I just didn't trust myself, and
Yeah,
how
totally.
much that slowed me down in business for sure, but in all areas of my life.
Yeah.
And so, um, I like people will try to dumb it down and just, "Oh, this is just a different frame of emotional intelligence." Um, but it's not. Like, uh, emotional sovereignty is point number 2 of human intelligence, right? It's a
Mhm.
very small component of your frequency. There's 12 capacities. One of them is a greater definition of emotional intelligence. Um, yeah, just wanted to go on that little rant before we closed out, I suppose. It felt right.
Oh, beautiful.
Is
Yeah.
and all of that's in the book because 'cause I'm only on page 30. So,
First off, the first 6 chapters, like, everyone loves the pace and the clarity of the first 6 chapters, and then as you get into, the 7 through 10, like, then ten's my favorite chapter, I think. I love all of them, but I think 10 is the most powerfully written. So that one is where we cover the 12 human intelligence capacities, the capacities that
okay.
fundamentally cannot be replicated by artificial intelligence, and where the economic premium will flow around people that operate with them. And that it's
Okay.
not 12 discrete things, that it's almost like you're built, the first 3 are the foundation. It's almost like you can't access the ones that are higher until you've built the one before it.
Mhm.
Right? So it's almost like it's hard to run a marathon if you can't run a 5K first, right? So at
Yep.
the foundation, it's called foundation, is clarity, emotional sovereignty, and equanimity, which allows you to see clearly, all the time. Your emotions aren't getting in the way. You operate with clarity. You're not dependent on external conditions in order to feel right. You operate clearly under uncertainty, pressure, foundation.
Mm.
The foundation to then get into the navigational capabilities, to be able to navigate your life now that you can see clearly, to trust yourself, to have discernment around what's right for you versus just what's right in general, and to be able to build the capacity to access your intuition reliably. Navigational capacities. Then when that foundation is built, then now you access the generative capacities consistently, which are creativity, deep human connection, and vision. To be able to access them not once in a while, not once a year like I used to, but to access them consistently, right? Then after that, when all those foundations are built, then you just the last component is expressive. When you operate with those capacities, you express as a fully autonomous human. There's no technique you're trying, you're not thinking about it, you just express as an autonomous human. You trust yourself, you have discernment, you see clearly, you're creative. Other people will see it as, whoa, that person is acting with agency, but in reality, you've just built all these capacities underneath it that express that way. You are deeply intentional about everything, how you design everything in your life. And you are fully adaptable, meaning that changing conditions do not throw you off. It's part of, you see it as opportunities and part of how you live versus seeing it as a threat of change. So adaptability becomes something that's like good. Like I like that the conditions are changing right now. I know how to navigate it. I trust myself. That's a true advantage in life. So those are the 12 human intelligence capacities. In the book, it demonstrates how each of these capacities are replacing a previous skill and advantage that people used. So for instance, people used to that following best practices was a advantage when information was scarce, and people used that to access experts and best practices in order to do that, right? That discernment is replacing best practices. The best practices are outdated before they get there. The best practices demonstrate an average case across a lot of things, not your case for your life. That the discernment is now replacing best practices to know exactly what's right for you in this moment and to be able to have that capacity. And so each one of them has an inverse that is being replaced. And so that is one of my favorite chapters, because I think without going through the book and the written context, that most people will think that the things that I'm talking about are fluffy things they already have. And that
totally.
Going through the book, you realize, like these things are, one, how they're built, and then two, do you actually have them? Right? It's like, so I think the clarity of that chapter was really fun for me to make.
I'm so excited to read it. And you're right, like those terms are so abstract. It's hard to know what are we talking about. And unless we like stop to go over what's my definition for self-trust versus what yours is, then we could be talking about two completely different things.
And then the craziest insight for me is that just the development of those capacities is entirely different than how people think you would develop anything, because personal development has been all about learning up to this point.
Right.
And that, for instance, right, like reading a book about autonomy and knowing what it means doesn't make you an autonomous human. Right? Listening to a podcast about clarity doesn't make you operate with clarity 100% of the time, right? And so there are examples to demonstrate that these capacities are more like our physical abilities, like endurance and strength, that they are built. There are capacities that we have that need to be trained, not information that we need to learn.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then it's interesting too, because even if you went that far, right, you weren't that deep in the methodology, you would think, oh, the way that I train this is by just like just pushing through and being resilient, and that's how I'll develop autonomy, right? That the interesting thing is the source of it, that where it actually starts is in our neural pathways and expressed and measured through our nervous system. I think one of the coolest things, and where I see the vision of ENCODED going, is that you can measure this stuff. Like heart rate variability is an incredible proxy for nervous system power. That EEGs, like I do an EEG every 3 months, about it measures the frequency distribution of your brain waves. And depending on what frequencies your brain is operating on, it's whether you're in problem solving mode, visionary mode, sleep and restoration, that those frequencies matter. That your cortisol levels can be measured, and those set your hormones, your stress responses based on galvanic skin response. That there are tons of different biometrics, sleep quality, sleep architecture, right? What's your difference between light sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep, quality, length, how much time do you wake up? Like those are all proxies of what we're talking about here, which is your subconscious foundation or your frequency. And so I'm fired up about that, connecting what you read in a frequency map, and then combining that and matching it with your biometrics.
Totally.
That would be
I
so
think that's
cool
gonna
to
be
have some sort of
amazing.
a device that measures this for you, and maybe one day it's our phone measuring it for us in some
We
way.
are we're in our R&D, but
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
That's amazing.
excited. Yeah, you're speaking my language on this, man, because my mom lived and then died from an autoimmune disease. And this was like at a time where it was like kind of before everyone had an autoimmune disease. And so, she had a rheumatologist who was her main doctor, who was like, we don't know. And she had several doctor's appointments a week, met like probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 surgeries over the span of 17 years, and everything amounted to, we don't know. And then I can look at the dynamics of the house and like the emotional dynamics between how we were with each other and like the relational dynamics between us. And I know that all of this was underlying her health. And that like a lot of it could be explained most likely by what we're now calling frequency.
Yeah, it's fascinating because a lot of the I'll say biohacking instead of measurement, but a lot of the biohacking people think that the measurement of the biomarker is the cause. And it's actually it's the result. It's the result of our frequency, which gets expressed in our behaviors and emotions over time, and how our nervous system is set. And then our cortisol level is like that, right? Our X, Y, and Z thing is like that because of our frequency, not the other way around. And so and then they apply behavioral strategies and supplementation and things like that, which can be beneficial, right? I'm not against medicine or I take supplements. I'm not against any of that. It's just about, where's the real solution? And I think that it's been so underappreciated. The best way it's the best way to say it is your frequency, but for a layperson, it's like your psycho-emotional state, as the foundation of your behavior, your health, and your well-being. So I think that frequency is the best way to encompass that term at this point, because it's actually more fundamental than your emotions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like there's different groups of people with worldviews that I've simply challenged the assumptions they hold around it, and I am consistently surprised how few people discuss the importance of this.
Yeah.
I'm consistently surprised by it.
I mean, it's like one of those things that's right there under your nose the whole time, but it's hard to put your finger on it.
And deeply, we each of us knows that this is probably the answer, but then we're so maybe brainwashed by the old way of thinking that we're just kind of like, whatever, we'll just keep doing whatever we're doing, right? Like we don't actually start like have that courage to actually go poke at our own selves. But we know that these answers are like, that's why every person seeks like self-help books. Like that is the urge and yearning to get something for ourselves, to understand ourselves, right? So we have this drive in us to want to understand it. And it's just when we then get on the path of like, okay, let me go understand it. Now someone says, well, you need a college degree, right? So this is really putting it into a very simple way. And is there some training, like going to a gym and working out if you want good muscles? Like, yes, there will be some lifting of weights probably in your future, right? But so AKA there is some work of writing and doing some of these exercises, but the results are there, and that's really what's been um, really refreshing, to stumble up on something that actually works. So
Yeah,
thanks
and
again.
I think many people would have a bias or a preconceived notion that this type of stuff is going to um, be sad and like fighting our demons and like whatever people have. Like you wouldn't reflect on it that way, right? It doesn't
No,
feel
no,
like
no,
that
no.
at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
No, it's
Um,
like it's a joy. I look forward to it every day because every day I get to write like, here's the best version of myself who I'm working towards. And like when I didn't have this in my life, it's so easy to just let a bad thing that happens in the day be like, okay, I guess that's who I am now. I'm just like the person that this bad thing happened to.
mhm. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of the preconceived notions are like I don't view this as inner work, right? I definitely don't view this as
Okay,
healing.
yes.
Like no. Um, so I think it's important for listeners to acknowledge that this is it's very different than maybe what the preconceived notions are. I view it much more as like as training to be a professional athlete and to maximize our own potential than going in and trying thinking that we're broken and we need to fix ourselves and like it's just
Mm-hmm.
to me it's just the frame of reference that we need to go and do that and whatever ayahuasca or whatever people do for that. It's just like sure if you'd like to go ahead, but I consistently challenge that frame of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that yeah, people that use this see it as a method to get to the same place in a much more enjoyable, productive way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
maybe that's a
yeah,
good
yeah,
way to say it.
yeah.
Totally.
Sweet.
Before we
Well,
wrap up,
oh,
could
cool.
you, I don't know if you have the time, but could you share a little bit? I think I saw you comment on something on LinkedIn recently. You're like, that's what the sequel's about. Are you writing a second book? Like, what's up with this sequel? What can you share about it?
So, I'll probably go like tell the full story on this in a couple of weeks, but so about 18 maybe a little bit more than that, about 2 years ago I had this vision, like this is what I'm meant to do, this is what's going to happen, right? And so a part of that was me wanting to write a book about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to write the book, and it simply just didn't stand on its own. Like that if anyone poked at the building would fall over. Meaning, like it's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm talking about this stuff, but there's no grounding in science and frameworks and understanding, right? So it just wasn't there. So
Mm-hmm.
I waited for a little while, and I started tinkering. Started teaching other people how to use it and seeing what the results were and understanding it more. And then I went to go and write it again, which is probably like 12 months ago. Um, and again, try to write it. Just get through a couple chapters, and it just doesn't stand on its own. Like the book, it just the my own understanding of how it worked was not at a level to be able to write a whole book about it where someone would understand it because I didn't understand it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So then I keep going back to the drawing board and understanding more. And at that point, I gave up on the book and I started writing
Mm-hmm.
a different book. And so I started writing a different book, and I got about 50% into a different book at which point it landed, and I was like, oh, like this page that I just wrote is the thesis of the book. And so I abandoned
Mhm.
the book that I had written 50% of, and I went back and over the past 6 months finished the first book that I had been thinking. For me, at least, it's probably different for other people. But for me, the actual process of writing the book was about 80% understanding it and then 15% writing it and 5% editing it was probably
Mhm.
the time horizon,
Mhm.
right? So it wasn't like I'm just sitting away typing the whole time. To me, it was mostly understanding, and then once I clicked and understood it fully, writing it was actually relatively straightforward.
Mhm.
Um,
Totally.
so on the sequel, it's just like I have this other book that I started writing that was 50% done that's now kind of sitting ready for some more work. And
Cool.
it could be viewed as a sequel. I view them as adjacent, not necessarily sequential. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, now I I want to give this one a little bit of time to breathe, but some point soon I probably will pick the other one up and finish it.
Okay. Is it also about frequency?
So I view the first book at its most fundamental level is the why. Like, why should I care about this? Right. So you have
Mhm.
Okay.
macroeconomics, you have physiology, research, performance research, bringing it all together of just like why do I care? Right. That's the main part of the book. It's not meant to be a how-to book. It's not meant to be
Mhm.
instructive. Right. It gives you ideas and concepts, but it's not a how-to book, and that was by design. So the following book will be titled Frequency Training, which is the what and the how.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is like, okay, so yeah, I buy into the why. I see that the world is shifting. I recognize
Mhm.
myself in this. Then so what do I do? How do I do it? And it'll be more framed of in a how to structured type of thing. And will it's written in second person. So the first book is written in third person,
Mhm.
and then so this book is written in second person, so it has a very different feel to it. So
In
that's
second
where I
person
am so
meaning
far.
you're talking to you?
You
You.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel
Okay.
this, you do
Mhm.
this, and it's almost like
Ah,
because
that is interesting.
That's sweet.
Okay. So you did the
because
first one in third person. I
now
didn't
I've
notice that.
interacted with almost 1,000 people going through this
Mhm.
process and recognize how similar it is. And so the if I said you X, Y, and Z, I know at least X and Y or X and Z would land. I know that at least two of the three would land for any particular reader when I make a statement like
Mhm.
that. Um, so I think that's been interesting to play with instead of like you can read the first book, right? It's like reporting on history for a little while, and
Mhm.
it reads different. So
Yeah.
this one I think will be uh, more more casual, personal, kind of like you're hanging out with me over coffee, and the design of the book, the design of the voice of the book from my perspective is it's your best friend talking to you over coffee, telling you what you need to hear.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
so
The
That's
the
cool.
hard
that's how
truths.
we've gone
Hard
about
truth.
it.
Okay. Oh, are you doing audio for any of them?
The audio book has been considered. It's been requested quite a bit.
Right.
Um, and so the short answer is I don't know yet. Um, part of me believes that because of the material that it would be best consumed written.
Mhm.
Um, part of me just isn't inspired enough to sit there and read the book out loud. So it's just maybe
I'm
the
sure.
inspiration will hit later. Um, and so we'll see what happens. But my for the past 5 years, I have basically all the content that I have created has mostly been free form podcast and then random short form writing content on like a social media platform.
Mhm.
And as I have gotten into the long form writing, it's just become my preferred. It's by far my preferred medium because
Mhm.
Mhm.
you need for the things that I'm talking about, there is depth and nuance that is not communicated or understood properly through free form audio or short form. It's
Mhm.
Totally.
misunderstood,
Mhm.
and so it's yeah, it's like something that I didn't do my whole career, and now it's like I think my favorite way to communicate. So whether that's in like long form essays, mini books type of
Sure.
stuff to go into smaller topics or actual books. I feel like that's going to be the main medium I communicate in for a while, and then people that want the summaries, like what we're doing here, summaries, overview, a little bit more feel, back and forth. The podcast is a great place to do it, but it doesn't. From my perspective, it doesn't replace reading the book. Like listening to this 3-hour podcast, like there's way too much detail and importance in the book for it to be replaced in this medium, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
And just curious, would you ever let AI read it for you? Like, what do you think about that?
So my girlfriend tried that and it fell pretty flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't think it's there yet. And to me, if I were to do it, I would do it myself. Like I wouldn't put out something that like that.
Yeah, it's
So
hard to, because like, how do you vouch for the quality of it besides just going through it and taking the time that it would have taken you anyway to record it to like go back and make sure that AI did it for you the right way, the way that you would have wanted it to?
there's just people are not because it's new, and this is part of chapter 9 in the book and point number 8 of the human intelligence capacities, deep human connection, that as there becomes more and more AI content, that people have always had the capacity to feel the difference, but now it'll
Yeah.
just be more dramatic that because AI does not bring a nervous system to the conversation, it will feel hollow, it will feel soulless. It already does, right? You can
Yeah.
put a pretty AI avatar saying some cute Instagram quote on it, and many people don't know the difference of whether it's real or fake. But people that have cultivated the ability of the difference, this feels soulless. This isn't a human. This isn't a human. I can tell that it's read by a robot. I don't want this. So more people will develop that part. And yeah, I played around with 11 labs in many of them, and it feels hollow and soulless regardless of how much you train it. And so to me, it's just like I put my soul into this book. I'm not gonna throw out some hollow audio book just so people can listen to it. So if it's to me, it's mostly about whether the inspiration's there for me or not. And at the moment, it just hasn't been. So if it hits, I would love to make one.
Yeah, it totally makes sense how you explained it. Like, hey, this is actually another thing about the speed, right? Like this needs to be absorbed slower than a quick audio, clip or something like that. Like this needs the attention and slowing it down and really trying to understand it. So yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Cool. Well, fire chat. Pumped about your success with ENCODED so far, and also pumped for you to be rocking out on the book.
Heck yeah.
And to keep me posted on how that goes.
Whether we quit our jobs.
And yes, definitely let me know about when that happens. It's not an if, it's just a matter of when at this point from my perspective.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'd be thrilled to hear about that as well. And keep me posted on how it goes.
Amazing.
Thanks for sharing everything. Thanks for the great conversation.
Let's do it again. Thanks so much. Appreciate
Cool.
you.